Hi everybody, welcome back to the Hobby Homestead. Today is February seed starting day for me. That means that I am going to be mixing up some soil and I'm going to be doing a bit of soil blocking, a bit of planting in pots, and then just some general checking up on the seedlings from the seeds that I sowed in January. Please come along with me while we delve into some February seed starting. If you're new here, I am growing in Zone 6A in Southern Ontario, Canada. And that means that I get a last frost in the spring around like early to mid-May. So we still have April, 3 solid months of growing our seedlings indoors, at least our warm weather crops, before we can even put them outside. So there's not that much that we're starting at this time of year, but there are a couple of things. I'm going to be starting some peppers, some celery, and some Tulsi or holy basil today. Now, I used up all of the soil that I had mixed during my January seed starting, and so I have to go and mix a bunch more soil, and all of that stuff is down in my basement. So come with me to my basement where we're going to mix together some more soil to do our seed starting today. The basement's a super mess right now because we are working on some of our storage spaces. Kim just renovated our cold room, which I will show you in an upcoming video, the before and after on that. Now she's working on our laundry room, and so everything that was stored in the laundry room is now just out in our kids' play space, which was already a mess to begin with, and now it's just a lot of stuff. So there's just bins everywhere. And one of those bins is my soil mix stuff. I am using this not cleaned out cat litter pail to mix my potting mix in. And then my soil block mix I'm putting in this container here. I have just my recipe that I used last time that worked well for me, so I'm going to go with that. I need a sifter to sift my compost. All right, I'm sifting compost through my salad spinner. Works really well because compost will often contain things like this, a whole stick. And the nice thing is when I'm done sifting it, everything left in the sifter can go out to my actual compost bin and be useful there. Wow, somehow a worm was alive in there still. In this very, very dry space. This is real compost. I decided to go ahead and sift all the compost all at once because I think I actually may need all of it at this point. All right, so right now I am mixing two things. I am mixing a potting mix and I am mixing a soil blocking mix. And I have the two recipes. These are not very well tested. I've eyeballed the one this year. I never was really good at making records of these things in the past of my soil recipes. So I'm following the recipe again that I tried earlier, that I tried in January, and I keep using the same recipe throughout the season and see how it goes before I share that recipe. And the soil block recipe is very loosely adapted from the Lee Valley recipe. I used what I had on hand, but the ratios are pretty much the same. And so that's what I'm doing for my soil blocking because my soil blocker is from Lee Valley and I want it to be consistent. Okay, let's see if I can follow two recipes at the same time here. Into the sifted compost goes play sand, mostly for soil blocking and just a titch in the potting mix. Then in goes the last of my broken down wool pellets. I add a bit of worm castings to everything, just for good measure. Then a pinch of water-soluble seaweed extract. This is meant to be watered in, but whatever. And some perlite goes into the potting mix only. I added a rock dust blend to both for some minerals, and some Root Max mycorrhizal fungi. I do plan to trial this mycorrhizal fungi again this year. I tried last year. But right now I'm just using it in everything that I'm sowing today. Next, in goes some of the fungus gnat nematode that I'm testing out. And finally, a splash of vermiculite in the potting mix. I brought everything back up to my table. We're going to just mix soil at the dining room table. One of the things that Kim has planned for our laundry room is a potting bench. And you know, I've seen a lot of potting bench projects for outdoors or for inside greenhouses, and I've never seen any designed to be in someone's house before, but this is where we need a potting bench. In my climate, I can be seeding and filling trays with soil in January when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground outside. And really, I need that environment for another 3 or 4 months before I'm going to start doing my seeding outside on my deck, where it doesn't matter if dirt gets everywhere. So yeah, a potting bench indoors is going to be an amazing addition to our laundry room. But until that time, here we are, mixing soil at the table. I just totally went off script with this recipe. I realized that I was pretty much out of the wool pellets, and I'm waiting on some more. So it's light on the wool pellets. And then I compensated by adding just a little bit of worm castings, which are not equivalent. They're not doing the same thing as the wool pellets, but I just wanted something else fluffy in there that was gonna hold moisture. So I added a little worm castings. This is my soil blocking recipe. So it is a lot of sand, more sand than I've ever used for potting things. But it worked really well to have this much sand when I did the soil blocks before. So I'm going to stick with that ratio of sand to sifted compost. And then I've just added a little bit of nutrient. And then these little beads are the fungus gnat nematodes. Now, they have worked amazing so far in my houseplants, I have to say. But we're going to see how they work in here, because you're supposed to water them in every day for 3 days. I guess that kind of will happen because they're going to be in the soil blocks, which I will spritz every day, but there won't really be a nematode in each soil block unless I were to mix this all well in advance and let the nematodes sort of populate or colonize the soil. But the other thing I'm not sure of is whether they work in a preventative way or not, or if they're only here because there's fungus gnats to eat. And if there's no fungus gnat larvae in this freshly mixed soil, are they even going to colonize? Just like with ladybugs, they'll only come to your garden if you have enough aphids or whatever it is, scale or mites. And if you don't have enough of the prey to sustain the predator will leave. I'm mixing a lot of water into the soil blocking mix. Oh my God, that's disgusting. That's one of my hairs. Ugh, wet hair is... Anyway, you want it really, really soggy for the soil blocks. Now for fungus gnats, I used to try to sterilize my potting soil, and I still recommend that if you're just buying like basic potting mix from a box store. If you're mixing your own and you're going to the trouble of getting living soils, so like compost, real local compost like I've done here, that might be good. Then you may not want to try to sterilize it because you could kill off microbes that are beneficial. And so that's why I'm so excited about the potential of this nematode. I've tried nematodes before, I've tried mosquito dunks, and they work okay, but not perfect. And there's always some fungus gnats around. But I tell ya, my houseplants were crawling with them, and I followed the package instructions diligently, which is something I don't often do well. And it worked. There's no fungus gnats in my houseplants right now, knock on wood. And so I'm hoping that it's going to translate to a clean seedling shelf this year. I think that's probably good. So there's my soil blocking mix. Now I'm just gonna hydrate this potting soil a little bit, not nearly as much water. So as I'm learning, I'm new to soil blocking. I've been starting seeds indoors for 20 years now, but with soil blocking, I'm learning you need it very, very wet to bind it together, to hold when you put it in the soil blocker. So when you squeeze it, some drops really do come out easily. With a potting mix, if you squeeze really, really hard, you might get a drop. I'm not getting a drop. Might not be hydrated quite enough. But anyway, you don't want it just dripping out of your hands, that's for sure. Because seeds and delicate seedlings can rot if the soil is too wet in these cases. But with soil blocks, because the sides are exposed to air on all 4 sides, they end up drying out a lot faster. So you want to start with it really moist. Now I guess I have to wash my hand, look at my seeds, and decide what I want to start with. Look at this. I scrubbed under my nails just now. Scrubbed with a scrub brush, and there's still dirt there. This is what it is to be a gardener. It starts early, and probably until mid-September, I will have dirt under my nails pretty much constantly. Today I'm not sowing much. My February sowing list, which I have right here, handy reference, only has celery, peppers, and Tulsi. Tulsi is also called holy basil, and it is an herb that I really enjoy for tea, but it's hard to grow here because it likes really warm climates and long seasons. And I've consistently been underwhelmed by how slowly the Tulsi comes ready to harvest for me. So I'm starting it earlier than I've ever started it before, and we'll see if I get a nice big pile of it at the end of the summer. This is my saved seed of Tulsi. It is, I'm not sure how great it's going to be. I had 5 plants that went to seed all together. So I want to keep track. I want to sow some of my own saved seed, and then I'm going to sow some freshly purchased seed. And there's water on the table. So thank goodness for plastic seed cases. Now, I actually haven't decided if I want to sow peppers in soil blocks or in pots. I'm finding that labeling soil blocks is a little bit annoying when you just have 1 or 2 plants of a given variety. For that reason alone, I think I'm going to sow my peppers in pots. So let's start first with regular old pots. I don't even remember how many pepper seeds I was going to sow. I didn't write down a number yet for this year. But in the garden plan, okay, so if I can squeeze, I do about 1 pepper per 18 inches. You can squeeze them closer together actually if you want. Sometimes that's helpful for support because pepper plants can get really top heavy. Branches can break off. They can fall over. But I like to have just a little bit more space because harvesting gets difficult if they're so crowded. And I use tomato cages around my peppers to help keep them upright. So let's aim for 12 pepper plants. And now the fun part, I get to choose what pepper plants I'm gonna grow this year. I will always grow Twingo. I'll always grow Costco banana pepper. It's actually called Twister. Yellow Costco banana, red Costco banana, habanada. This is from my mom's neighbor. It's another sweet red banana. Those are hot. Shishito. I do 1 cayenne. Full lemon spice jalapenos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can only do 2 more. Oh boy, this is really hard. Where did my seeds go? I know I got seed from somebody. I did a garden design for them. I went to their property and I snacked on a pepper there and it was delicious. And I brought the seed home with me. And now I can't find it. Is it going to appear somewhere later on in the season? Oh well, this is all I can do. All I can work with is what I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm at my maximum already. Okay, we're going to grow a couple extra. I can't. It's so hard. We'll see. I can make space for all of these. Okay, so now I'm gonna need some pots. I'm not sure I'm gonna have enough soil for this, but we shall see. So I was mixing my soil and realized that I was gonna run out before I finished filling my pots. And then I also realized I'm out of wool and I really would like to have something to use in lieu of wool until the wool arrives. So I ran out to my local home hardware and I grabbed some Coco Coir, which is the alternative to peat that I started using before I got into wool. So please watch while I hydrate a brick of Coco Coir. If you're not familiar with Coco Coir yet, it is a byproduct of the coconut industry. And so in countries where they grow coconuts, they will husk them there typically to sell coconut product around the world. And those husks would be otherwise sort of a wasted byproduct, I guess. But if they wash them thoroughly to get salt out of them, and then they grind them up like this, they can sell them to the horticultural industry. And it makes a pretty solid replacement for peat. Now, Coco Coir, like wool pellets, is pretty hairy, pretty fluffy. And that actually kind of bothers me sometimes when I'm using it as a potting mix. But it's really not that big a deal. And I think you can even get stuff that's more finely chopped. I usually use bigger bins for mixing soil blends, but I don't know why I didn't this time. Oh, I know. Kim was trying to tell me that using buckets was a more efficient use of space. Doesn't explain why I'm using a bowl. The black pots are the first batch I made with the wool pellets in it. And then the green pots just so happen to be the second batch that I made with the Coco Coir. That makes it easy to see how things do. Now it's time to write my labels. Always, always label. It's one thing if you have a whole tray of the same thing and it's the same variety. Like if I were to only grow one kind of tomato and I filled a tray with it, I don't need to label that. I know it's a tomato plant, but that's not how I roll here. I sow many different varieties. This is a tool I stole from my kids' Play-Doh tools, and it works great for poking holes to sow seeds. And I'm going to put 2 seeds per pot just in case. In case you haven't heard this before, the rule of thumb for sowing seeds at the proper depth is to make the hole about 2 times the width of the seed itself. Okay, this one is Sugar Rush Peach. I get so excited trying a new variety. I've never grown this one before. I'm just so excited to see what it'll look like, what it'll taste like. Before I wrap up with these pots and go put them on a heat mat, because peppers are aided by some extra warmth, helps them germinate faster. I'm going to sprinkle some vermiculite on top. Sprinkling vermiculite on top does 2 things. It helps retain moisture and it helps repel fungus gnats. And vermiculite, in case you're wondering, is a mineral that is mined. I believe it's mined here in Canada, and it's heated to extreme temperatures so that it ends up puffing up like popcorn kernels, which means that a little bit goes a long way because it expands. Guess I should put these seeds away before they end up getting all wet. Now on to soil blocking, and I want to do 2 kinds of celery and 2 kinds of Tulsi in these, and I also want to pot up or up block some of my eucalyptus and some leeks. First, we're going to sow some new seeds. This again is the compostable cling wrap or saran wrap that I found to cover my soil blocks with when they're germinating to keep them nice and moist. There they are. To wash my hand. Oh, more tiny friggin' seeds. Excuse me while I don my reading glasses. That might help me. Let's get this party started. And you shouldn't have to put extra dents in your soil like this because the soil blocker has one. But yeah, I was having trouble with the roots actually not being in the block, just sitting on top. One thing I'm learning about soil blocking is that it is perhaps most efficient if you are sowing a large amount of the same thing. If you want to have just a couple of each seed type and you need to label those, or they're going to grow at a different rate than the rest, it's kind of tricky to soil block. in this way. You know, it's really designed for mass producing your seedlings. Now we're going to do bigger ones. Well, not perfect, but not awful. This is the fun part of soil blocking, as I have learned, is taking your seedlings and plunking them into a big block. I was having trouble with the soil blocks at first because I wasn't getting them deep enough in the soil, because those tiny little 3/4 inch soil blocks are like barely the width of some of these seeds, which maybe tells me I should be using a bigger soil block for those seeds. But even the eucalyptus seeds and the leek seeds, I thought I was pushing them down into the soil, and the little soil blocker has a dip in it. And so made the dips, I sprinkled seeds in the little holes, and then I covered them with a thin layer of vermiculite. And clearly that wasn't enough, because the root was actually just growing out into open space. It wasn't going down into the soil block, it was going out. The soil blocks are nice and crumbly if you break them apart, like there's no chunks in them. So there was no other reason why the root would not be penetrating it, except for the fact that the seed was just laying awkwardly on the surface of the block. And so it didn't know where to go. So that was a problem I had with my first sowing of leeks. So that's a challenge for me to overcome in the future. But when I re-sowed some things and did a little bit more soil blocking late January, I used a toothpick and I dampened it, and then I stuck it in some seeds, and then I stuck that into the soil block and shoved it around in there. But that trick did seem to work, because that next round of eucalyptus, it came up looking much more rooted. Even though the soil was moist when I just mixed it together, I'm going to spritz them. I have found that when you pot up or block up, when you put a tiny block into a bigger block, just a nice spritz on the surface makes it meld together, which I assume helps the roots work their way into the bigger block. Now, on my other tray over here, I might actually transfer these because I don't need such a big tray yet, but I have some dianthus, otherwise known as carnations. I'm waiting for some of these snapdragons to germinate. These were a seed that I got from Etsy. These are my own home saved seeds. So you can see there's obviously a lot more germination from my home saved seeds than from the store-bought. And the Etsy seeds, I sowed every last seed. It didn't come with that many. So if only one germinates, I might have to just write them a little note and ask for some more. I am finding that these little microgreen trays that I had work pretty well for the tiny soil blocks. I am going to cover these back up with a layer of plastic, compostable cling film, and stick these on the shelf. Holy Hannah, this is heavy. Oof. Eucalyptus and leeks. Peppers go on the heat mat. Ugh, my lights aren't quite high enough for these tags. And then a little tray with Tulsi and celery. I can also give you a little tour down here of our seedlings so far. These ones were sown in January. Ginger is sprouting and quickly reaching up to the light. Some of them are a little bit slower. 3 pots sprouted pretty early, and then like this one's just starting now. I have faith that all 6 of these pots are going to sprout. This is just a tray of microgreens that my son started. This is a little pot of a mixed salad that my daughter's starting. The cress came up before the lettuce. And then we've got our sweet potatoes. You can see this guy here is forming roots out of the bottom, and tiny little buds are coming up the top. These are going to be the slips. So actually we're ahead of schedule on the sweet potato slips this year. And our loofahs are also doing pretty great, if I do say so myself. pretty soon I'm going to be trellising these so that they don't take over the grow shelves. And I can show that on an upcoming video as well. That's it. That's all we have going right now. I mean, it's not bad, actually. Nothing has taken over yet. Thank goodness. It'd be bad if it had by this point. But things are also starting to fill up. So pretty soon I'm going to be checking on my seedlings every day, and I'm going to be looking at the cute little babies as they germinate. It's the most exciting time of the year, really. And then just like with real babies, it quickly becomes a lot of work and you wonder what you signed up for. Anyway, this is where we're at this point in the season. Thanks for coming and sowing seeds with me today. If you're also sowing right now in February, I'd love to know in the comments what it is that you sow in February, and let me know also when your last frost date is so that we can kind of compare notes. And I will be sure to give regular updates on how these seedlings are doing throughout the growing season. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you come and grow with us.